Okay, so in this video, we're going to start to look at solving logarithmic equations. And so there are two styles to solving logarithmic equations. One of them is going to be that you are going to do the switch format. You're going to be switching the log back into its exponential form. And then in the second video about solving logs, we'll be talking about how to solve equations that have logs on both sides. Now, the preference, okay, for what we're looking for here is when we're doing the switch format, if there is a log on one side, or you can condense it to only have a log on one side, then we're going to do this switch format. Now, one of the key things to look for here is when you're solving log equations, if there is a single item, typically it's a number, but it could be a variable, that is by itself, and I can get all the other log stuff on one side, then that is an indication that you're going to be doing this switch format, or you're going to be processing it back over into another type. Okay, so let's take a look at examples. Okay, I've got log base 2 of x minus 4 equals 3. Okay, and so I'm going to show you through a couple of examples what I'm talking about here. So what I'm talking about when I say this is I've got log on this side, but I've got this singleton item over here of a 3, okay? Now, the next thing that we're going to do, I've got a nice pretty, this is pretty straightforward to start with, is I'm going to do my little loop-de-loop, okay, that little switch format thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and visit the section 4.2 videos. I think that's where I cover these. And so I now have 2 cubed equals x minus 4. And so now we're going to solve like normal. So 2 cubed, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. I'm going to add my 4. Now, because we are working with log equations, we do need to do kind of a quick check. I'm not necessarily plugging this back in to see if it all the way processes through, but I do want to make sure that I'm not going to get answers that cause concerns for us. So for example, if I plug this in, 12 minus 4 is 8. I can take the log of 8, okay, because that is taking the log of a positive number. Remember that you cannot take the log of a negative, and you cannot take the log of 0. So I'm doing a quick check here to make sure that when I plug it back in, I'm not going to wind up doing that. So for example, if I've gotten 3 minus 4 is negative 1. That is not a viable answer because that would cause me to take the log of a negative number, and we cannot do that, okay? So let's take a look at another one. Okay, so I've got 4 natural log of 3x equals 8. Now, with this one, we need to sort out what to do with this 4. We've got 2 options. One is, this is sitting in front of a log, so I could in theory push this back up as a power, and that is certainly an option. The other thing is right now it's sitting out as a multiplier in front of this. So if it is plausible, and it's not too bad in the math, and I can divide this over to the other side, that is kind of the preference because it'll make stuff smaller, and then I'm not dealing with powers that I have to deal with. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to divide the 4 off. So now I have natural log 3x equals 2. Okay. So now I've got single log on one side, 2 on the other. There's my single item again. I'm going to do my little loop-de-loop. So now I've got, now there isn't a base, but that's natural log. So that is e. My power is 2. And then I've got 3x here. Okay. Then I'm going to divide by 3. So I've got e squared divided by 3 equals x. Another way to format this would be you could do 1/3 e squared. Okay, either one of these would be acceptable. Now again, I'm going to kind of process because I need to make sure that I'm not going to get a negative or a 0 in here. So e, remember, is that 2-point-something number. When you square a positive number, it is still positive. Okay, when I divide a positive number by positive, it is still positive. So x is positive. Now you can put it on a calculator and get a decimal approximation to play that game. But if that is positive, when I plug it in up here, 3 times a positive number is still a positive number. So I'm not going to come up with taking the log of a negative or taking the log of 0. It's still going to all come out to be okay with that. Now then, but again, if you're not as comfortable kind of processing through that, go ahead and figure out the value of x here as a decimal. Even if it's approximated, you can then kind of make sure that that's not going to happen, even if it is an approximated type answer. Okay, so let's look at one more. Okay, so with this one, again, I've got that singleton item over here by itself, which still makes me think that I've got to do that kind of switch format thing. I do need to do some condensing over here. So I need to use my log rules, product, quotient, or power rules here to help out. I've got addition. We know that addition goes back to multiplication. So I'm going to have log of x times x minus 3 equals 1. Okay. And again, I just use the brackets here because I already had one set of parentheses. I'm now going to do my loop. And again, this was common log, so that means my base is 10. So I've got 10 to the first equals x times x minus 3. So now I'm going to do a little bit of work out here. 10 to the first is 10. And then I'm going to distribute here. That's going to be x squared minus 3x. This is looking very much kind of like a quadratic. So I'm going to subtract the 10. Okay. Now that I've got this all on one side and it's a quadratic, you can use whatever technique you like. I'm going to use factoring. So I've got x minus 5 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0. I'm going to add the 5. So over here, I'll subtract the 2. Okay. So again, I need to check these in. So if I take 5, that's going to be log of 5. That's okay. 5 minus 3 is 2. Log of 2 is viable. So we'll circle that one. That's going to be an answer. Okay, -2, log of -2. Can't take the log of a negative. That's out. Okay, so you do need to make sure that you're checking. Now, that is not to say that if you get a negative number or you get 0, that it's automatically out as an answer. Okay, so for example, kind of a quick, kind of making one of these up. If I had something like log of x plus 4, okay, if I worked down through my math and I got -3, okay, when I plug that back in, -3 plus 4 is 1. I can take the log of 1. If I got -1, -1 plus 4 is +3. That's okay. 0 plus 4 is 4. I can do that. But if I get something like -6, -6 plus 4 is -2. That's out. Okay. So it is not necessarily that I'm checking to make sure that it all the way formats out. I'm just making sure that I'm not taking the log of 0 or the log of a negative number.